All right. All right, we'll go on holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 17, or let's say better, chapter 18, starting a new chapter. Being this chapter, guarantee for a while, I want to speak about here. Again, want to welcome everyone holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 18. And the Torah says, verse 1, by the Bereshim Moshe Lemor, God spoke to the Jewish people saying, verse 2, the Bero B'nai Yisrael, V'emart Alehem Ani Hashem Elokeichem. So the Torah says over here that speak unto the children of Israel, right? I.e. B'nai Yisrael, children of Israel. And what should you say to them? You should say, Ani Hashem Elokeichem. I am the Lord your God. I am the eternal your God. Very good. Now, interesting. What's the context? Really, you have to look at the next verse and what it's really talking about, which we'll get to. I'll just mention it, but I'm not going to go through it. It says, verse 3, Kamas Eretz Mitzrayim, Asher Yishavtem Ba Lo Ta'asu, Kamas Eretz Kenan, Asher Ani Mevi Eschem Shamo, Lo Ta'asu U'Bechu Koseichem, Lo Selechu. So there it says, after the deeds of the land of Egypt, where you lived, shall you not do, right? You shouldn't do. You shouldn't go after their deeds. Or the land of Canaan, right? Whether I bring you, where I bring you there, don't go after their actions, neither shall you walk in their ways, right? That's what he's talking about, right? Speak to the children of Israel, saying, I'm the Lord your God. Okay, very good. See what Rashi here says in a second. Very good. So he says, I'm the Lord your God. Okay, what's context? I'm the Lord your God, and just keep this, just keep that. Don't do this, don't do that. Do not go according to the ways of the Egyptians and the Canaanites, right? Don't go in their ways. Come on, Rashi, very interesting. Let's add in no third verse. Let's add in no verse 3. Comes along Rashi and says, what does it mean? I am the Lord your God. Right? Legitimate question. What's it talking about? Says Rashi, first thing he says is that he says, I am God's, right? I am God that spoke of Mount Sinai. I am the Lord your God, whose kingship you accepted. Now therefore accept my decrees. So comes along Rav Yehuda Nossi, Rav Judah the prince, brings down the Medrash. Rav Yehuda Nossi was the one, the exilarch, was the one who organized all the Mishnah, right? Put all the Mishnah together. Mishnah really commentary on the Torah. Gemara, a commentary on the Mishnah. The Mishnah and the Gemara make up what we call the Talmud. So says Rav Yehuda Nossi, says Rav Judah the prince. Rashi says there was a manifest that's known to him in the days of Ezra. We'll see what that means. Why is he talking about the days of Ezra? That they would ultimately revolt against what? Restricting sexual relations. The whole chapter, except for a few verses, is all about forbidden relationships for Jews. There are forbidden relationships for non-Jews that the Rambam explains in the laws of kings. But he says, Ezra says they're going to rebel. They're going to rebel against these restrictions. So therefore, God came to them with a decree and said, I'm the Lord your God. Understand well, I'm the one who imposes this decree upon you. The judge Elokechem, right? The word Elokim means judge, right? When God created the heavens and the earth, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, it says, Bereshis bara Elokim, Eis HaShemayim ve'eis ha'aretz. God created the heaven and the earth. Why did it say the word Elokim? That's the God of judgment. So, commentaries say God really wanted to create the world in judgment. But he saw mankind wouldn't be able to stand up to it. So therefore, what did God do? He created judgment with mercy. Right? The name Hashem. But he says, I'm going to judge you. And it's the function is to punish. Also, it's certain also give reward. Right? So what does God say? Rashi says, I'm the Lord your God. First of all, I'm the one who opposes these decrees. I'm the one who makes these decrees. And I judge you. I punish you. And I also give reward. So here Rashi is proving, right, according to the Rambam and others, Rambam's 13 principles of faith, God has the ability to reward and punish. All right, let's go back here. Let's analyze Rashi here for a second. Rashi says, again, I'm the Lord your God, who spoke on Mount Sinai. Well, where else did you think he spoke? He spoke to individuals, right? But he wants to make known, I'm the one who spoke on Mount Sinai, right? I'm the one who spoke to your forefathers on Mount Sinai, in that generation. And then he says, I'm the Lord your God, whose kingship you accepted. Now, therefore, Rashi says, now therefore accept my decrees. So let's analyze it. God tells them, as Rashi says, I'm the Lord your God. I'm the one whose kingship you accepted on Mount Sinai. God spoke to the Jewish people. Right? More than 3 million people, or give or take, between 2 and 3 million people, which no other so-called religion makes such a claim. So God says, I'm the one who spoke on Mount Sinai. And you accepted what I said. You accepted my decrees. Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like we're servants to God. We have an obligation to keep what he says. And it also sounds like it's all-encompassing. Meaning, what does God say? Right? Rashi's telling us. God's telling you that you accepted all my decrees. So what does it mean? What does it mean to accept all my decrees? Does it mean I can pick and choose? Does it mean I can do what I want? No. Does it mean which line you stood on a Mount Sinai? If you're in the Reform line, you didn't get very many mitzvahs. If you're in the Conservative line, you got a few more mitzvahs. If you're in the Orthodox line, you got all the mitzvahs. Well, it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like it's a decree that I can do what I want. Plenty of people say that. Oh, the rabbi said this, they made this up, this, that. Right? God says, follow what I say. And again, we're going to be literal here. Karaites will be very happy with us, right? Because they don't believe in oral law. So God says, I'm your king. You got to keep what I say. You got to keep my decrees. Not an option. Not if I feel like doing it. Good. I don't feel like doing it. Okay. Not an option. Here, Rashi says clear, I'm the Lord your God, the one who has the ability, as we'll see, to punish, to reward. But I'm the king, you have an obligation to keep what the king says. Comes on Rashi further, and he says, in the name of Yehuda Nossi, in the name of Judah the Prince, it was manifest, it was known to him in the days of Ezra, that the Jewish people would ultimately revolt against what this whole chapter is all about, is restrictive sexual relations. Now, the Medrash here quotes the verse in Malachi, right, chapter 2, verse 13, that in the days of Ezra, what they do, what the Jewish people do, they revolted. They revolted against marriage laws. Why? What does it say over there? It says, and this have I done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, with crying. Yeah, where is this? What are we talking about? Because the Lord is witness between you and your wife of your youth. Against you have dealt treacherously. You're immoral. Right? What's he coming to tell you? That at that time, he says they were immoral. Just like the Gemara Megillah says, 15a, it was he who removed the strange wives from the midst of the people. Strange wives. Non-Jews. Right? But again, all these laws are going to be talking about forbidden relationships. Very good. Right? Especially with non-Jews. Right? So here, Rashi's quoting, as we learn out from the prophet Malachi again, prophet, direct word of God, given to him, he has to give it over. Right? He has to give it over. So he says, you revolted against the marriage laws. You married who you wanted, even though it wasn't permitted. Right? You went against me, God says. Right? That's what the Medrash is talking about. Right? Also, choosing the words, just interesting. It says, if I find it here. Yeah, so you revolted. So the word revolt is just interesting in the language itself. Right? In the language itself is really means over here to tear loose. Right? Really meaning to revolt. It's not the meaning of being attached. Right? Again, that's from the Medrash, where Jewish people are crying because these restrictions have been imposed on them. Right? It says that so again, so what does it mean? What does it mean? Or what does the word mean over here? It means they revolted. They didn't like what they heard. Right? Not that they were attached to them, they revolted. Now, didn't the Jewish people say, we saw in the book of Exodus, the Jewish people said, Nasav and Ishma. Right? The Gemara says, and Avodah Zarah 2b to 3a, says in the Medrash also, God went to all the nations. Want to know if they wanted the Torah. Right? It comes along Esav. God goes to Esav, says, you want the Torah? He says, what's written in it? It says, don't murder. Esav says, what do you mean don't murder? I was given the blessing that I'm going to live by the sword. Nah, not interested. So God goes to Ishmael, goes to the Muslims, says, hey, you want to know, you want the Torah? Say what's written in it. It says, don't steal. Right? So what does Ishmael say? But it says in the Torah. It says in Genesis, I'm a paradam, I'm a wild man. My hand's in the hand of everyone. Everyone's in the hand of me. I got sticky fingers. In other words, that's what I do for a living. We steal. They said not interested. Goes to all the other nations. They also not interested in the Torah. They come to the Jewish people, say Nasav and Ishma. We don't care what's written in it. God, you have a track record. Took us out of Egypt, all the miracles, very good. So we're going to keep whatever you tell us to do. Very interesting. Now God says, you're going to have restrictive sexual relations. Can't be with whoever you want. Can't just do whatever you want. Right? We'll see what it means. Going after the ways of Egypt and the ways of Canaan. Right? See what that means. Get there. I don't know when, but we'll get there. So what happened? So what do I have over here? So very interesting. They rebel. They didn't want these restrictions. They didn't want these restrictions. Now again, what is the obvious question? They said, not Seven Ishma. They said, we don't care what's written in the Torah, we'll do it. Now all of a sudden they say, well, they're not rebelling against the entire Torah, per se. There's certain things they have difficulty with. This is one of them. Right? They rebel against this. So again, I'll ask the $1 million question. And the $1 million question is going to be, well, maybe $1.5 million because I just upped the ante. What's the $1.5 million question? Did they accept the Torah? They didn't. If you tell me they accepted the Torah, what's the problem? What are they complaining about? So really, they accepted the Torah, right? That's clear. Though we see later in the book of Numbers, we'll get there one day. I know it might be 97, right? I should live that long. Get there. But then they complain about the fish. We don't have any fish. We missed the fish in Auschwitz. Go back to Egypt, get the fish. Watermelon. We miss meat. Give us meat. What are they complaining about? They'd rather go back to Egypt? Where 80% of the Jewish people didn't come out? When 8 million people died by the end of the Plague of Darkness, right, over a long period of time. They didn't die all at once. What do they want? What in the world are they complaining about? They really missed the watermelon? The fish? Very hard to understand. So you could ask the question, not really a question. You could ask the question that, you see, they complain. Certain things they found very hard. Okay. Now, if they found certain things very hard, does that mean they rejected the Torah? No. It means they had difficulty with things. It wasn't easy for them. Even though, give an example, even though God gave the man, God gave the man in the desert. So every day they got a certain amount, for everybody in the family. Families, bigger families got bigger amounts. Smaller families got smaller amounts. They got exactly what they needed. So, and this went on for 40 years. But, seemingly, we don't have any food anymore. What's going to be next day? So you're going to tell me that what? That's, how are they going to survive? The man who came yesterday, came the day before, came the month before, came the year before. Well, what's going to be tomorrow? Old Mother Hubbard, ain't nothing in the cupboard. What's there? What's going to be? So, some level, they're lacking emunah, lacking faith and belief in God's going to take care of their needs. They don't know what's going to be tomorrow. Got nothing in the cupboard. What's going to be? I'll take it further. Even if that's the case, they don't know what's going to be. The man is brought down, taught it tasted like anything they wanted to taste like. Could have been pizza, could have been chicken, could have been burgers. So it was something that filled them up, but the taste was whatever they wanted. So if the taste is whatever they wanted, what are they complaining about? Again, they missed the fish. So what does it taste like fish? They miss meat. What does it taste like meat? Watermelon? What's the problem? So it all comes down to the fact that what? God wanted to work on their emunah. And it worked very hard on their emunah. See, they're in the desert. They got nothing around them but sand. What do they have in Egypt? They had food. Everything was readily available. They weren't lacking anything. They were suffering. Good. They were suffering like no tomorrow. Okay. Even if they were suffering, at least they had food in front of them. Wherever they look in the desert, what is there? Sand. Now, I would think at this point, God has a track record. He's not going to let them down. He's going to take care of their needs. So what's one possible explanation on all these cases? They thought they weren't on the level. Maybe they'll do something, or maybe they've done something to sin. And because of that, God takes it away. And God's not going to take care of them. They'll all die in the desert. That's why they complained to Moshe. And they say, why'd you take us to this desert? We should have stayed in Egypt. Right? We're going to die in the desert. Pick your poison. Be beaten by the Egyptians, but you have food. And you're alive. We're going to the desert. We have nothing. But again, if they saw all the miracles, which is the obvious question, they're the 20% that survived. 100%, they're the 20% that survived. Came out of Egypt. So obviously they were holding somewhere in the world to survive. To come out. Now all of a sudden they saw all the miracles. They saw God face to face, Mount Sinai, whatever that means. And all of a sudden they changed of heart. I mean, even a better question, what about the Chet Egel? What about the sin of the golden calf? They really thought this calf, miraculously could speak and eat and all this. Cooked them out of Egypt? How could they make such a mistake? So quickly after the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, very hard to understand. And if you look at the verses themselves, what does it sound like? Simple explanation, not going into anything else. Idolatry. That's the way it looks. Right? If you straight read into the verses, whatever language you understand. What would the Torah tell you? 100% idolatry. Thing is, the commentaries go to town trying to show that it wasn't idolatry. There was some mistake there. Some, it wasn't even by the Jews per se, it's by the mixed multitude that did it. Okay. But even so, right? Even so, even that being the case, it's a mind-boggling thing. Because the reality is, what are they lacking here? What in the world are they lacking? Shouldn't be lacking anything. God's giving them everything. So they saw the miracles in Egypt. They came to Mount Sinai. They got the Torah. They survived. God gave them the manna. Gave them the manna from heaven. Took care of all their needs. Seriously? We missed the fish? We want watermelon back in Auschwitz? Simple explanation. Simple explanation is when you have something in front of your face and it's there and you go somewhere else to the unknown. When you go to the unknown, you don't know what's going to be. You don't know where to go. You don't know many things you don't know. Right? It's one of the worst things in the world a person can go through is doubt. Should I do this? I shouldn't do this. It's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's, it's like anything else. You got to weigh the consequences. You got to see. You got to weigh the evidence. And see. But having doubts is nothing worse. Nothing worse than being in doubt. Now, it doesn't mean the doubts can't be clarified. But here they thought, just like Yaakov Avinu, a blessed memory, Yaakov himself asked God twice to protect him and take care of his needs. First time, he's going to fight against Esau. And God says, don't worry about it. I got you back. I'll take care of you. But he asked him a second time. Now, if God would come to us direct and say, listen, you got nothing to worry about. I got your back. I'm here. Why would you ask him again? Why in the world would you ask again? So simple explanation, commentaries say, is that what was Yaakov bothered by? What was he worried about? Yaakov is worried maybe he's going to sin. And if he sins at his level, God's going to punish him. And God's going to take away that divine protection. So it's not a lack of emunah per se. What is it? We got to do something not to get that divine protection, not to get that divine help. Everybody needs divine help. There's no such thing without divine help. You wouldn't live. You wouldn't be in existence for anything. Right? God breathes in the spirit of life to man. The Torah says, the book of Genesis. You don't have that spirit of life, you don't live. Right? When, angel of death takes out the soul, the person dies. Obviously, God doesn't want the soul to go out, the person to live, whatever level. But he's the one who does everything. Can't do anything without him. So what makes the question harder is the fact they saw open miracles, right? They saw open miracles. For us, it's a lot harder. Because we're living in a world of Hester b'toch Hester panim. We're living in a world hiddenness within hiddenness. We don't make anything out of anything. Very hard to understand anything. So then like it here. We can have all kinds of doubts. Why this, why that, why the other thing? We have all kinds of doubts. Well, many things. But if you see things clear as day, and God reveals himself, open miracles, no one disagrees, open miracles, how can it be someone still has free choice? You see open miracles. That's why the Gemara says, time of King David, King Solomon, no one's going to be allowed to convert. Why not? Because you won't have free will, open miracles. And the time when the Messiah comes, same thing. The open miracles. Now that being said, a great rabbi once told me, if a potential convert is accepted by Beis Din, accepted by the rabbinical court for conversion, even when the Messiah comes, they'll be able to convert afterward. Right? So, there's still hope. There's still hope, even though time's running out before the Messiah comes. Nonetheless, what's going on over here? So I'll tell you about it. Someone can have prophecy, right? How do I know, even with great miracles, you can still have free will? Because he'll be one. Right? The evil non-Jewish prophets. God came to him, spoke to him, and he still wanted to get the Jews to sin. So you can ask the question, okay, the non-Jews can say, we wanted a prophet. If we had a prophet like Moses, we'd be different. So God sent him prophets, and that prophet is Bilam, right? So non-Jews could complain and say, wait a minute, we're supposed to be better. We could have been, as great as the Jewish people, etc. They had Moshe Rabbeinu sent us Bilam. Really? Come on, is that really the same? So they had a claim. If we had such a prophet, we'd be different. Well, yeah, Bilam was kind of corrupt, true. But what does it show, though? An unbelievable thing, right? No one disagrees there. Bilam had prophecy. Right? We'll speak about Bilam one day. The Ramban, others say his prophecy almost as great as Moses himself. Hard to understand. The Gemara says that he could figure out in the exact split second God got angry. At whatever level. Also very hard to understand. So if somebody at that level, and God spoke to, and God wanted, obviously him not to curse Jewish people and everything else, he still had free will. Right? See, by a Jewish prophet, if you don't get the prophecy right, death penalty. Right? Death penalty. So now, what do I have with Bilam? What I have with Bilam is, you see, I made a video of this on my YouTube channel on Parshas Balak, that prophecy does not make you righteous. And you see that even a person can have prophecy and not be righteous. That's what you learn. One thing that you learn. Now, Jewish prophets were different. You had to be at a certain level. The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you had to be a certain level. There were people that practiced to be prophets. Very good. Took a lot of effort. Not everyone made it. Today we don't have that, right? We don't have prophets today. The Gemara says the only prophets today are either imbeciles or little kids. But we don't have prophecy. There are great rabbis who have the lowest form, or one of the lowest forms of prophecy, i.e., divine inspiration. There are some people that have that. But for the most part, there's no prophecy. There's no prophecy. But if you tell me a non-Jew had prophecy, let's say a non-Jew had prophecy, it's a mind-boggling thing, that prophecy, revelation by God, or through an intermediary, doesn't really matter, but he knows God's speaking to him. How in the world could he go against? Could he defy? So what do you see? Even a prophet is free will. Jews that want to do it, don't want to do it, but the Jewish people on Mount Sinai said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we are going to do whatever God says, then we'll hear what it is. But all of a sudden over here, you see, God gives this command, you got to be careful restricting sexual relations. We're going to see that in verse 9, chapter 19. Whenever we get there, beginning of chapter 19 says, God spoke to Moses saying, speak to the congregation of Israel and say, Kedoshim to you, I am holy. You should be holy. Because I'm holy. No differences of opinion here. According to Rashi, he's talking about what? Sexual relations. Right? Forbidden sexual relations. According to the Ramban, it's talking about not abusing things that are permissible. God says you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to drink. Doesn't say you should be 50 pounds overweight. Doesn't say you should be a glutton. Doesn't say you should be an alcoholic. Right? They look at it two different ways. We'll get there. Right? We'll get there one day. But God says, I'm the Lord your God. I'm telling you what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. Come on, the Jewish people over here and say, this is a problem. This is too hard. You gave us the strongest urge in the world, right? I eat through relations, right? We'll keep this clean. Says Reb Yehuda Nasi, says Reb Judah the prince, he revolted. Going, this is too much. This is very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. So then he says, but I made a decree. I am the Lord your God. Understand well whatever I say goes. And you got to listen to the rabbis who explain what it means. But I'm the one who imposed this decree upon you. We have a vote? Can we have a vote on this? No. There's no votes. This is to your benefit. You don't want to listen to me? God says, you'll be punished. You listen to me, you get reward. Right? A major tenet of Judaism. Which I would say is a good thing. It's a moral imperative for non-Jews to believe it. I wouldn't say necessarily obligation, part of the Noahide laws, but I think it's a good thing. Definitely a good thing, right? For a Jew, it's obligatory. For a Jew, 100% obligatory. Right? Any of the 13 principles of Maimonides, right, of the Rambam, all of them, if you don't believe in them as a Jew, or any one of them, then you have to, if you don't repent, you lose your status as a Jew. You have to repent. These are crucial. God's absolute. Moses, the greatest of all prophets. There's prophecy, reward, punishment, resurrection of the dead, coming the Messiah. These are things you got to believe. As a Jew, I would say they're good for a non-Jew to believe it, even if they're not going to convert, but not obligatory. Okay. But I would say that even in such a case, what does Rashi here say? Rashi here says that you don't do what I say. This is a decree. You get punished. But you also get reward. Very good. You get both. You get reward and punishment. But if you don't believe in reward and punishment, you're in trouble. Right? It goes against the Rambam's 13 principles of faith. Many others certainly hold by it. It's very clear according to the Torah. Very, very clear that you're going to get punished. If you don't do what he says, you get punished. Now, the lowest level of fear of heaven is the fact that the person is going to keep Torah and mitzvahs if they're a Jew because they're afraid they're going to fry in hell forever. That's the lowest level. Fear. Right? We've spoken about fear. You need fear. Fear doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily lead to love of God. Love of God can lead to fear of God. But you need fear. Fear is the base. Fear is definitely the base. So a person has to realize there are repercussions for what I do. 100%. There are repercussions. Can't just do what I want. But he makes clear, it's only Rashi saying that. Yeah, the fact that God says, I am the Lord your God. Now again, the Karaites themselves, who don't believe in oral law, why does it say I'm the Lord your God now? What is this referring to? Right? So for God to be God in general, right, he needs people to serve him. Now, before anyone calls me a heretic here, if God did not have servants, if God did not have anyone to keep what he says, is he God? He's God. He's got angels singing his praise, got animals, got plants, got planets. He doesn't need man. Right? God doesn't need anything. First of the 13 principles, God is absolute. Period. He doesn't need me. Gives me the ability to live. He puts the soul in the body. Right? He convinces the soul to go in the body. But he's the one in charge. You think he really cares that, I tell him how great the planets are. And the rain and snow's like, oh, thank you very much. Oh, Saturn, those beautiful rings. Thank you very much. You like big pat and back, throws me across the universe. Yeah, beautiful. Think he really cares? Not quite. It can't be for him. Right? The Ramchal says in his introduction, the path of the just. Right? He says God is a mativ. God wants to give of his goodness. Since God wants to give of his goodness, when he created the world, who did he create the world for? This is simple logic. Nothing to do with the rabbis. Why did he create the world? He could not have created it for him. Why couldn't have God created the world for him? Because he has no needs. Go back to the Rambam's first principle. God is absolute. He has no needs. If he has no needs, why did he create the world? He created it for man. He gave us the ability to live in this world, to enjoy it. Very good. $2 million question, because I just upped the ante again. And the $2 million question is, okay, if we're supposed to, live in this world and we're supposed to enjoy it, how are we supposed to do that? How is that possible? Well, guess what? He gave us a book. He manufactured himself. Best-selling book of all time. Called the Bible. Best-selling book. He told us how to do it. He gave us a way to do it. And when Torah says you got to draw close to God, you want to be attached to him, it says the book of Deuteronomy, very good. How am I supposed to do that? God's infinite. Trying to attach yourself to Casper the Friendly Ghost back in the day. Yeah? How do you attach yourself to an infinite being? Impossible. Right? Kosovo says, in the first gate of unity, which a lot of people don't learn, very hard part to learn, but he says no one can understand, no one can fathom God's true essence. His true essence, you can't understand. Other things, okay, you see things through nature. You can say what God isn't, but you can't say what he is. Because we can't say what his essence is. Nobody knows what his essence is. Not even Moses. Moses got to the 48th out of the 49th level of learning, right? Of being close to him. Right? He got to the 48th level of understanding. There's one level he was missing. Okay. He's not God. Right? Not only that, Moses says, I want to see your face, meaning I want to understand what's going on in this world when I'm going through it. God says, no one can see my face and live. You know, you see me in hindsight. What does hindsight mean? Maybe, one day God will throw you a proverbial bone. He'll throw you a bone, and maybe you'll see how to connect the dots. Very hard to understand. In this world today, we're living, as we said before, living in a world of Hester, don't Hester Pony. We're living in a world of God's hiddenness within hiddenness. Very hard, if not impossible, to understand God's wrong. Right? How he runs the world. That impossible. Right? Very hard to understand. Right? I get this question all the time. People say, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. What's the measure for measure? If I knew that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'd be world famous. I'd be God himself. We don't know. We can maybe guess. I don't know. But we're never going to know for sure. Because the person get punished for something, could have been something he did 2 years ago. Could have been something he did 6 weeks ago. God has mercy. And then he finally says, okay, I have to punish you now. Right? So he decides to do it now. Why now and not later or whatever? I don't know. Don't have an answer. God runs out of patience at some point. Some point. Right? But that question comes up all the time. When am I going to know the measure for measure? You're not. It's very hard to understand the measure for measure. You chalk it up. You must have done something wrong. So what do I fix? Everything. Kind of hard. It's kind of depressing, actually. But we have to live in this world. So God gave us the ability to enjoy this world. Now, what's the obvious problem? It's a world of strife. It's a world of hatred. It's a world of evil. He created evil. He didn't want people to tap into it. But okay, if a person wants to tap into it, they'll pay the price. But it's a test. Life is a test. Life is not a bowl of cherries, as we say here. It's not a picnic. Not easy. For many different things. All that being said, he gave us the ability to attach to him, to draw close to him. But how am I supposed to do that? Well, he told us, keep mitzvahs. Do what you're supposed to do. Take on my decrees. That's going to make you a better person. So you're going to say, wow, what an idea. I'll come to synagogue on the holiday of Sukkot. I take my palm fronds, right? My lulav. I'm going to take my lemon on steroids, my esrog, right? A citron, whatever you want to call it. I got my willows and I got my myrtle leaves. So imagine during that time in the service, someone walks in and all of a sudden they see people going like this. They're shaking it like this. They're shaking it like that. They're shaking it back. What in the world's going on? So I grew up with it, didn't know much about it, right? Nonetheless, I do that. Let's say better, a Jew does that. It has an effect on his soul. I don't mix milk and meat together, has an effect on your soul. I stay away from things that are forbidden, has an effect on your soul. Or, could be positive, could be negative. So all these things going on, they're to balance the person, to make them go in the right direction. Comes along the Torah over here and says, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. So what? Big deal. Yeah, don't go after what they did in the land of Egypt, right? But even without going on to that. And what happened? What does Rashi here tell me? You got to accept my decrees, God says. I didn't just give decrees for nothing. I created the world for the sake of man, for the sake of the Jewish people to accept the Torah Mount Sinai. Where's there a hint in that in creation? Because the Torah says, by the last day, the sixth day, everything was good. Right? B'yom ha-shi-shi. Right? Why does it say B'yom ha-shi-shi? The sixth day. Before it says the fifth day. It says the fifth day, the fourth day, a third day. It doesn't say the third day. It doesn't say the fourth day or the fifth day. It says the sixth day. Makesher. What's the connection? right? The Rashi there says, what does the hay represent? You'll say the, great, right? An old joke, what's Smokey the Bear's middle name? The, great. Okay, the, what does the represent? What does the hay represent? Rashi says, hay represents the 5th day of Sivan. What's 5th day of Sivan? Shavuos. What does Shavuos represent? Giving the Torah Mount Sinai. There's an opinion with the 5th day, 6th day, 7th day, right, of Sivan that God gave the Torah, but without going into that. Yeah, Rashi says God needed someone in history to accept the Torah. So everything in creation was in flux. Everything was like suspended animation. Everything's there. Well, then what's going to be? How's it all get solidified? Oh, the Jewish people in the future are going to accept the Torah. Since the Jewish people in the future are going to accept the Torah, God says, great, put everything in action. That's only because they accepted the Torah. Had the Jewish people not accepted the Torah, right? Or somebody didn't accept the Torah, we would have gone back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Back to that original chaos, right? Back of that Led Zeppelin album. Anyone know what I'm talking about? That would have been bad. Might have been good for you guys. You wouldn't have to listen to me, right? But it would have been bad. The world goes back to the original chaos. So God had a purpose in creating the world. What was the purpose? To keep what he says. And the purpose was to do what he says. Whether you understand it better, you understand it worse, doesn't matter. You got to keep it. Doesn't mean you don't have to learn it. Even if a lot of it does not make sense according to our logic, that doesn't matter. I still have to keep it. I still have to do it, right? Someone once told me, gave a bunch of sweaters to my kids once during the winter. Secular Jewish person. So I said, great, it says 100% wool. If anything says 100% wool, you got to get a check for shotness. What does shotness mean? That you can't wear something that has wool and linen mixed together. Forbidden. Right? One of the ultimate decrees also. So it makes sense logically. Right? So this person asked, so I said, it's probably not a problem. Right? But, get it checked, then, it should be fine. So the person came back to me and said, so what's the reason? What's the reason you're not allowed to wear wool and linen? I said, oh, no, it's a good question. It's a decree. It's a divine decree. We don't necessarily understand. So if you don't understand it, why would I keep it? And I said, and if I gave you 10 different reasons, you knock all of them off, you wouldn't keep it anyway. Right? That's not the point. I said, that is the point. That is the point. Because even if I came up with a reason, you'd say, nah, that doesn't resonate with me. Come up with another reason. That doesn't resonate with me. And you knock them all off. So you say, well, why would I keep something if I don't understand it? I said, great. And if you didn't understand it, would you keep it? Well, it depends. Of course it depends. Right? It depends on your world outlook. Yeah, that's what people today do. It doesn't fit the world outlook. Doesn't matter how stupid they sound. People sound pretty stupid a lot of times. They'll say, oh, I heard about this. Is this really true? No. Oh, okay. Right? People say things like, they have no idea. They're not necessarily saying it to, be obnoxious. Some people are, but people don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to have anyone over them saying you can't eat this, you can't do that, you can't do the other thing. People want to do what they want to do. They're attached to their desires. That's it. They're attached to their desires. Comes along the Torah and says, I'm going to curb your appetite and something that's is very strong inside of you, right? Which, which is immorality. So if God gave you such a strong force, right, why would he give it to you? What would be the purpose, right? What would be the purpose of him giving you such strong desires and this and that to use it the right way? But obviously, it's also a test. You have to harness it. You can't just do whatever you want, right? By Jews, there are family purity laws. As they say, a person can't be with his spouse, like a chicken whenever you want. So certain times you can't be. So that, women don't think that's great. Men probably not, right? But regardless, is a rejuvenation of marriage. That's what it does, right? That's what it should do. Right? It's definitely what it should do because, then you can't treat your spouse like an object. You actually have to talk to them, actually have conversations, without physical contact. So again, women may think that's a great idea. Men probably not so keen, but that's how it develops a relationship, right? Because there has to be something there. It's like, I heard Rav Pesach Krona, it should be one say, if a person marries for money, let's say, you marry for money, you lose interest. Person marries for good looks. Okay, but how long is that going to last? If one has a child or two, a figure's not the same. Not always. Even if she has more kids, not the same. And the older you get, what are you going to do? Body starts to change, wrinkles, this, that. Okay, how many surgeries can you do if you have the money to do it? There has to be something more there. For sure, there has to be something more there. Because there's not something more there, that relationship won't matter, won't last. Impossible. If it's just based on physical desires. Also at some point, your body gets older, still can't do the same thing. You wanted to when you were younger. I was waiting for someone once many years ago. It's a funny, sad story at the same time. I told the story before. I was waiting for somebody, and two women walked by. Not that I was looking, but I could tell they were much older. Much older. I was young then. Didn't even have any gray hair, right? I think I still had hair in my head. But anyway, I digress here. They walked by, and one woman, they had to be easily in their 60s, because you can tell by the wrinkles on their face. Totally made up. One woman with spiked red hair, definitely not her own hair color, right? No question, at that age. And wearing a miniskirt in your 60s. I'm like, you got to be kidding. Yeah, okay. It's one thing you want to, you're gonna spike your hair, you're gonna punk out your hair, whatever it is, different colors or whatever. Okay, right? You don't want to show your age. Okay, but you're a woman in your 60s wearing a miniskirt. That's a bit much. Yeah, I'm like, really? I'm like, come on. Yeah, still trying to hold on to youth. Now, what would other people do? Surgery. There are people, you got money. So what do you waste it on? Surgery, right? It's not good. More surgery you do. Okay. We want to hold on to youth. Can't hold on to youth. The second a person is born, clock ticks. Clock is ticking, right? Every second of every day, you're closer to being in the grave. That's the way it is, right? I hate to depress anybody, but that's it. When we're younger, time goes by very slow. Once we get older, time seems to go exponentially. Next thing you know, you wake up and, you get gray hair. You're like, hey, what happened over here? I went by. Like, how'd you become so old? It happens. Time goes by. So what do some people want to do? Keep what they had before, but it's going to be hard because your body's not going to allow it, right? You can't eat, first of all, would love, go back in the day, like a 4-course meal, like be totally stuffed and, who knows what. When you're old, you can't eat as much. You cannot eat as much. I think it's ironic. I think one of the big avodah zaros today, idolatry, not in the literal sense, right, is food. People just eat unproportional amounts, which is kind of sick to see. Like, person never missed a meal. You think that like they're starving. The way just like they shovel food in. Like good old Uncle Asav. Uncle Asav comes in. He comes in from rummaging and pillaging and doing all his stuff, and he's like, "Give me some of that red stuff. I'm about to die." So Yaakov, had him, and he said, "Some of your birthright," without going into the story, right? So he sold his birthright, and he fed him like he shoveled it in. That's what it sounds like. He shoveled the food in. He's like, "Oh, I'm about to die, this and that." He was starving. We're going to die. We're going to die. But, sometimes you see people eat, you're like, really? Not that their eyes are bigger than their head. Not even saying that. They just eat unproportional amounts. Like so many people are overweight. So you gotta eat, you gotta eat within reason, you gotta take care of the body. But you're gonna say, if God made so much food and in abundance, why shouldn't I enjoy it? So we're gonna see Leviticus chapter 19. You can't enjoy it. You're allowed to enjoy it. The mitzvah to enjoy it. But who says I should be a glutton? Who says I should be 50 pounds overweight? Cause other problems. right? But again, what are we talking about over here? You're going to accept my decrees. So in theory, get back to what I wanted to speak about. In theory, what could I say? I could say that if God didn't have mankind, is God king? Can God be king without servants? What's the answer? Yes. Doesn't need men. He can be king anyway, right? Comes Rosh Hashanah, the whole world gets judged. People think, oh, we think we're so superior to everybody else, even though God says we're his chosen people. When we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, what do we commemorate? God's creation of man, the birth of man. We didn't say the birth of Jews, the birth of mankind. So everybody gets judged, Jews and non-Jews. Very good. So isn't it true? We need to we spend 2 days, 2 long days in synagogue making God king, right? You go through the Machzor, the Rosh Hashanah prayer book, very clear that's what you're doing. It's all about judgments, and it's all about making God king. Or by fire, or by water, or by this, or by that, right? Very depressing. Very, very depressing. Because there are people that we see, year in and year out, not here. They're not around. Not sick in bed, they're dead, right? That's it. We know we're not going to live forever. We understand that, right? But we don't think it's going to happen to us. No one thinks it's going to happen to us. So the question would be, if the Jewish people did not spend all day in synagogue for 2 days everywhere in the world, for 2 days on Rosh Hashanah, is God king? God's still king. We have an obligation to make him king. Very good. If I didn't make God king, is he king? He's king. But I ask a very simple question. My very simple question is, doesn't God need servants to be king? Let's say better, doesn't a king, a flesh and blood king, if he makes decrees and no one does them, no one keeps them, is he still king? And maybe he's a puppet. He's got no power. He's got no power. Why? Because no one's listening to what he says. Nobody cares what he says. Now, what about the King of Kings? If God's the King of Kings, we understand he's King of Kings. Very good. If God is the King of Kings and there's no one to serve him, is he still king? So this is a good question. Sort of. We just said before, he doesn't need servants. Right? If he didn't have servants, he'd still be king. King over the spiritual world, king over the physical world. Without humans, he's still king. But doesn't part of us want to say he needs servants? He needs someone to take the flag, so to speak, give over what he says to others, keep those decrees, pass them down the next generation. Well, isn't that why God was looking for a nation, for somebody to accept the mantle of Torah? Otherwise, the world is still in flux. He needed the Jewish people, sort of. Right? Why do I say sort of? Because the reality is, we help him in creation. But he doesn't need us. Essentially, he doesn't need us. But can God be king without servants? That's the question. And the answer is yes, he can. So Rosh Hashanah is different, even though we got an obligation to make him king. And we spend 2 days in synagogue making him king. And that's all we do. But he doesn't need it. It's more for us to take that into everyday life, right? Take that into after Rosh Hashanah, that we continue to keep God king and make him king in whatever we do. Well, we make him king anyway. We say the Shema twice a day. Right? We say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God's in charge. Right? God for sure is in charge. Right? He runs the world. And because God runs the world, so I would say he doesn't need us. He's in charge regardless, whether we make him king or not. But the fact that we do make him king is really a benefit for us. We make him king every day, by saying the Shema, right? We take on the yoke of heaven by declaring God as one. And then we take on the yoke of mitzvahs, right? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, blah, blah, blah. First, you got to take on the fact that God's in charge. That's the first thing. Then you can declare that we have to keep his mitzvahs. So we do that every day, right? Men do that twice a day. Women maybe once a day. They don't have the obligation to pray at night, right? According to everybody. But men have an obligation to pray twice a day, right? Sorry, say the Shema twice a day. So since you have an obligation to say the Shema twice a day, aren't I already doing that? Aren't I really making God king anyway? So good. So now you got to go back and understand what the real purpose of Rosh Hashanah is. But essentially, I do it every day. We have two special days. Understanding reward and punishment. Understanding that, in fact, he's in king regardless of whether they are subjects or not. But the catch-22 is, you need servants for someone. He needs someone to serve him. That makes him king. But God, no. Even nobody served him. Even though, no people in the world served him. Or there was no, I'd say better, there were no humans in the world. Is he king? He's king. Right? So the benefit to serve him is for us. Because God doesn't need it. So if that's the purpose, good. So God, as we said before, logically speaking, cannot have created the world for himself. Because he has no needs. So he must have created for me. So he gives me the ability to tap it. So therefore, we have to accept his decrees. We have to do what he says. We can't pick and choose. Right? In the days of Ezra, though, they rebelled. They didn't like these decrees. Yeah? God says, you only my decrees, too bad. I'm going to punish you. You keep my decrees. You'll get reward. Very good. But we want to keep his decrees regardless of whether there is reward or not. That's the highest level. Right? Because the Mishnah Perkei says we're going to serve God even not to receive any reward. Because why should we get reward? Because if you learn a lot of Torah, the Mishnah says, if you learn a lot of Torah, then you shouldn't think you're so great. Because that's what you were created to do. So Kaufman's language, you're going to ask for a reward. You're going to say, I want a hoodsie. Anyone who grew up in Boston knows what a hoodsie is, right? Dixie cup. So Dixie cup, you have vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, wooden spoon is made by Hood. They call it a hoodsie, right? They call it a hoodsie back in the day. So nonetheless, you say, I want my hoodsie. I want this ice cream. Come on, I want my reward. God says, I don't have to give you a reward. Why should I give you a reward? That's what you're created to do. You're created to serve me. Don't be a pig and ask for rewards. So the Chov of the Bible says, why do you get rewards? Why should God give you a reward? Says, duties of the heart. You know why I get reward? Because God does chesed. God does an act of loving kindness. He gives you a reward. Does he have to give you a reward? Why does he have to give you a reward? You have to keep what he says. A Jew has to keep his decrees. Non-Jew keeps whatever applies to them, universal. These universal laws, according to the Torah. So non-Jews also have to keep whatever applies to them. But it's a divine decree. This is what you got to do. This is your obligation. And if you don't keep the divine decree, there's penalty. Right? For some things. There's punishments. For non-Jews, certain things are death penalty. Not all of them. But certain things a non-Jew does, they don't keep the Noahide laws. Some things are death penalty. Right? It's severe. 100%. It's very severe. So you want to keep Torah out of love, not out of, you want to enjoy. Not just out of fear. You have to have fear. But not just out of fear. Even though fear is the base. Because you want to keep Torah. You want to love Torah. If fear is going to keep you in line, it's going to help you, stay in the straight and narrow path. And that's going to lead you to love Torah. Great. Right? You have to know there's reward and punishment. Very good. But, if I love God and I want to do what he says, even if I make mistakes and I repent and this and that, I still want to draw close. He gives you an opportunity. It's not for him. You can care less. I take my lemon on steroids. I'm shaking it like this and like this. Who cares? But he's telling you that's your benefit. He's telling you praying to me 3 times a day, even if you say the same things over and over again, right? Certainly for a guy. He doesn't care. He says, I want you to say these words over and over. People have an issue with this. Spoke about this last week, my class on prayer, right? People are going to have an issue. I want to say the spontaneous prayer. I want to do what he's supposed to do. I want to be alone and, meditate in the forest. Very good. So go do it. No one says you can't do it. Question is, does that take priority over prayer? And the answer is no. You're still going to pray 3 times a day. You can do that, right? I'm not saying you can't do that. You can meditate. Very good. Yeah, but that doesn't take the place of prayer. You still got to pray what the rabbis told you to pray. And as I mentioned, a lot of the prayers were formed by the men of the Great Assembly, 120 men of the Great Assembly. A number of people in that group, besides being great rabbis, were prophets. So my simple explanation is that, if they're going to tell me what to say, what not to say, when to stand, when not to stand, this and that, I'm going to listen to them. Why? They're prophecy. Many of them had prophecy. Yeah? Ultimate prophets they were. So why wouldn't I listen to what they say? They're going to say that's oversimplified. That's okay. I'm a simple person. Right? But if a prophet or some of these great men would tell me what to do, then that's what I'm going to do. They understood a lot better than me, but so prayer needs to be worked on. So that's not the topic here. Prayer definitely is something, one of the 3 things needs to be strengthened, right? That is no question. But people cop an attitude and say, well, a lot of people are not into prayer, this and that, because you have to say the same thing over and over again. It doesn't resonate, and it's this. And who cares what it is? Who cares what it is? You're still going to pray. You're still going to do it to the best of your ability. That's the case. So that, that is the case. So I have to tune in. I have to work hard. This is something I have to do. But if people know that this is their obligation, that's going to happen, help them draw closer to God, very good. Yeah, you got to work hard though. Not something given overnight. Got to work hard, even if you say the same things over and over again. More my Hasidic side here coming out. You got to sing and dance a little bit more. You got to be in tune. You got to know what's going on. To a certain extent. But yeah, it takes work. Somebody asked, I want to get this question. Otherwise, I'll just keep going here. If the generation witnessed clear miracles, we spoke about that. Witness Hashem face to face, whatever that means, right? So they made errors and a lack of emunah, right? Lack of faith and belief in God at their level. This is the greatest generation in the history of man, right? So at some level in God's eyes, there's a lack of faith. For us, it would have been a lack of faith. But they're on a very high level. Again, it's very hard to understand. Okay. Can the people in modern day make the claim that the people who witnessed miracles had doubts? People today who witness no miracles have even more challenges. So I'll tell you like this. We're living in a world of hiddenness, which is much harder. Much, much harder because we don't see open miracles. Someone asked the Brisker Rav of blessed memory, Rav Yisrael said Soloveitchik of blessed memory, and he asked him the following question. An American asked him this question, and he said, if God would do more open miracles, right, then people would stay close to Torah mitzvahs. Right? In other words, if God would open a person's eyes, do real open miracles, that they can't deny it's not God, more people would be closer to Torah mitzvahs. It comes on the Brisker Rav, a blessed memory, and he says, no. Why not? Because the Brisker Rav said, in order for a person to believe, you have to be a vessel. You have to be a vessel of Torah and mitzvahs. Why now? Why would he say that? Because if you're not a vessel of Torah and mitzvahs, you could explain anything away as being not miraculous. Right? I'll give you an example. I've had a cousin that I had a discussion with, secular cousin, and this is after the Gulf War. And I said, like, 39 Scud missiles come. They don't hit anything. They don't hit anything. All open areas. So I said, what are the odds that could happen? Yeah, takes off his watch, starts pushing some buttons, probably Casio back in the day, right, with a calculator. So I said, what if it's 1 in a billion? I would take those odds with all the money I don't have, 1 in a billion, that if they would shoot Scud missiles from Iraq to Israel, the odds are 0 they don't hit anything. If you tell me they end up shooting and down south in the Negev, a lot of open area, that's where all the missiles go. Okay, that could happen. Because a tremendous amount of open area. I remember I was going down south up north, and there's this huge stretch for miles or kilometers, depending where you're from, right? For miles, total desert. Nothing there. I'm like, people say there's not enough room in Israel to live, if everyone would come. There's plenty of room there. Not a problem. Okay, it's hot in the summer. I get it. Very, very hot in the summer. Okay. But there's plenty of room. Plenty of room. You go down south towards Eilat, also plenty of room. Plenty of room. A lot of open area. So I told this person, I didn't say that, but I said, come on. If you tell me one missile they throw or they send, it hits nothing, okay. A second missile, okay. Once you get to like 5, 6, 7, 10, they don't hit anything, you got to scratch your head. You got to say, why are they not hitting anything? Now, if you tell me you got the stupidest people shooting them, possibility. Definitely a possibility, right? Or you got to say there's something else going on. Because it doesn't make sense logically. If I knew I was playing roulette and I knew and I had it fixed that 70% of the time red 13 comes up, 70%, even less, I'm going to be a multi-billionaire. Billionaire. Why? Because the odds are in my favor. Tremendously in my favor. Even if it's half, doesn't matter. You still do well. But you want to tell me none of them hit anything? 0? So it could happen. That's not going to happen. Give me a rational explanation how it could happen. Bad weather? Wind took it out. There was a story of a missile that went out, and they shot up a Patriot and missed it. Right? They didn't knock it down. So, the Army said, this is going like straight towards Tel Aviv. They were like, wow, it's going to be a major thing because Tel Aviv is majorly populated. And what happened? The last second, there was a wind. It wasn't windy that day at all. The last second, a huge wind came out of nowhere, seemingly, knocked the missile off its course and went into the sea. Like almost like slapped it to the sea. Exploded in the sea. Now, if you want to tell me it was a very windy day, it was very gusty, whatever it is, I could hear. According to nature, I could hear such a thing. Could be the wind took it. Okay, that's possible. Definitely possible. If the wind is dead, like a lot of times in the summer, it's just hot, right? Tel Aviv, other places can be muggy, right? It can definitely be, humidity is very high. Other places, let's say like Eilat, is like being in Phoenix. It's just pure heat. 100% pure heat. We get wind. We get so much wind there, right? It's pure heat. I'm not saying it can't be, right? But on this day, even people in the army were atheists or whatever they didn't believe in, I don't say they changed overnight, but they said, yeah, that's an open miracle. That's an open miracle. Because that, you can't explain that. Out of nowhere, a wind comes when it's not a windy day. Again, you want to tell me it's windy, great. Then you got what to say, right? But you're like grasping for straws here. So I said you have to say you have to say this is not normal. They shoot these missiles and they don't hit anything. Nothing. I'm not talking about, they hit a telephone pole, whatever, but it doesn't cause damage. No. They don't hit a building. They don't hit nothing. Everything in open areas. That's pretty miraculous. Right? If these things are supposed to be accurate, should hit something. But this person copped an answer. Nah, it could happen. Well, okay. It could happen. I'll play the odds. I play the odds. Right? I'm into statistics. So show me. What are the odds? You want to tell me it's 1%? You want to tell me it's 5%? It's a very, very small percentage. 39 that don't hit anything. Well, I would tell you even if it was 10. If they shot 10 missiles and 10 missiles don't hit anything, well, there's something wrong. Now, some of these missiles end up, backfiring, exploding in their own place. Okay. The ones that actually made it out, right? The majority make it out. Okay. Even if you told me 10, that would, the odds of that also very slim. Because a lot of places are very heavily populated. Very, very, heavily populated. And there were some that have hit here in different places, populated areas, that didn't do any damage. End up on the street, nobody was there. There are things that have hit buildings. There's a store here, not far from me, last week. It's unbelievable. There was a missile in the middle of the night. Family didn't even hear the siren. For some reason, they didn't even hear the siren. They heard booms, but it didn't didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. They woke up the next day and they saw a fragment of a missile got knocked down. And it went through the roof. There's a picture of a missile in the roof. Yeah. Because it got knocked out. But, it's also unbelievable. First of all, they never heard, they didn't hear the siren, which, whatever. Okay, they didn't hear the siren. But even if they didn't hear the siren, the fact that they didn't hear the impact and it hit the roof and didn't, it didn't, cause damage to the roof. That's all it did. So, there are other people, okay, they lost their house. There was a story, whatever, months ago with Hezbollah, someone driving on the road, a missile killed him. Direct hit. Oh, that's bad. That is bad. You see a missile coming straight for you, that's it. Right? Unless it goes over your head or something, you're lucky. But, okay, so that was their time to go. And they got hit by the missile. Right? Ramosh Schneider, my Rebbe would say, every bullet has its, has where it's going to go. Every missile has where it's going to hit. Right? A lot of these things, they cause some damage here and there, but in general, it is pretty miraculous. There was a story, I think, after 30 years, the person that blew up and killed the 300 Marines, in Beirut, they finally found him. They got him. Yeah, it was like 30 years later, right? Killed 300 people, one shot. That's a message. That's a message. God wants to hit a lot of people, he'll hit them in one shot. If he wants to deflect all the missiles, this and that, even according to nature, with these Patriot missiles and different things, okay. Do that also. But if people are going to get hurt or damaged or, God forbid, anything else, it's because that's their time. That's what he wants. Why? No, anybody's guess. Anybody's guess. But says the Brisker Rav, a blessed memory, you want to see miracles, you got to be a vessel to see it. Like someone told me, became religious in his 30s. His whole family became religious. So I interviewed him. I was going to write a book about, people who grew up not religious, became religious, different stories. So I asked him, I was interviewing him. I asked him, I said, tell me your story. Why'd you become religious? He goes, that's not the question. He said, the question is, I had siblings. My siblings and I saw the same thing. Why did I choose Torah mitzvahs and they didn't? He goes, that's the question. I said, okay, good question. People see what they want to see. People have an agenda. They don't want to be told what to do. They just want to live life. And you can't say it's right and wrong and this and that. Of course I can. Right? And I can prove it. They don't want to hear it. Okay, it's different. It's different. But today, you're right. There are no miracles. There are no open miracles. I think just from this war alone and what's going on, I think it's pretty clear. All these missiles, and they are doing damage, some of them. The vast majority, someone told me this morning there was where I live and nearby, there was a siren on Shabbos. Yeah, so I didn't hear anything, I didn't hear any booms or whatever, but some of my kids, different area, heard them. Okay. So a friend of mine says he's got a granddaughter on the other side, right? Where I live, there are two hills. One is A, one is B. Okay. So in B, what happened? They saw the missile fly over. That's why there was a siren, obviously. They saw, I don't know, because they're looking outside. They saw it fly over and went into an empty field. It got knocked down, right? And this is, it's part of the problem because, they knock it down with these patriots. You don't know where the shrapnel is going to go, where it's going to fall. So they saw it with their own eyes. They saw the thing like, spiraling, whatever, ended up in an open field. It didn't hit anything, and that's where it went. I mean, that street where they live is like on the outskirts of that side. On the other side, we'll say on the other side of town. And, and a number of years ago, it was empty. It was still like, they're still building it, but it was like barely buses going down there, anything, right? A lot of people there now. Like the whole full neighborhood there now. Not empty. This thing got knocked. Patriot knocked it, and it knocked it over there. So you gotta say, well, we got the Patriot missiles, and they knock a lot of them out. Okay. But the fact that, first of all, they do that's one thing. The second of all, even if they knock it, it can still do damage. Like this is the fragment of this missile that hit somebody's roof. Like that's pretty uncanny. Go explain that. Whatever they're obviously, government gonna take care of it. Obviously, they have to take care of it, right? But what are the odds of that? Of a fragment of a missile hitting. First of all, you don't hear the siren, right? It goes to the roof, you don't even feel it. You wake up in the morning, you see outside, you see the missile hit or the fragment hit. But even without that, yeah. So you're gonna say we have even more challenges today. We have challenges. I'm not gonna say we don't have challenges, right? But the Chol says, you want to see miracles? Very simple. Look at the human body. Look at nature. You don't have to be, this big philosopher to see the human body is miraculous. Nature is miraculous. Right? Abraham saw at the age of 3, the age of 40 or later, there was design in the world, there must be a designer. Now, the question would be, okay, who's the designer? God. Okay, let's say I agree it's God. But, so how do I serve him? What am I supposed to do? Oh, we got the Bible. Bible tells me. How do I know you're right? Okay, it's a different issue. People witness miracles with the human body. Anyone's ever had a child that came out okay? Also pretty miraculous, right? We know how a child's formed. Right? The Gate of Reflection speaks about it. The miracle of a baby in the womb. Fact that's, nourished by the woman, hidden away so no damage should be caused, and then comes out, it can't do anything. Right? It can do anything by itself. So whatever, different, you'll tell me that's nature. You'll tell me that's nature. Very good. But every single time that happens, only when someone comes out deformed or other issues, people start to question. What about a seed? Take an apple seed, put it in the ground, disintegrates, makes an apple tree, hundreds of apples. Because of course, because that's the DNA of a seed. Okay, great. Where did the DNA come from? We'll put it there. And it's always like that. Orange seed, apple seed, all things being equal. So you say that's nature. Good. Who's in charge of nature? Who takes care of that? Who makes sure that happens? And the fact that the earth doesn't go close to the sun or far away. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Yeah, it's very easy to see miracles in that sense, right? But you can say, no, that's nature. We can have a whole agenda, try to explain it away, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in God. And, and even if it is God, we still have to serve him, whatever. You come up with all kinds of crazy ideas, right? We live in the most, in the most technological generation, which is also a test because, among other things, being addicted to a phone, that's another issue. But why is it a big issue? Why is it a big issue? Because with all the great technology, you still got people, the biggest heretics in the world. Because they see things that should be obvious that that's God. Should be. Even, we mentioned before, even Mr. Hawking, right? Stephen Hawking came up with the idea that we're living in an expanding universe, right? So who's expanding it? But he didn't have an answer according to math or science, either did Einstein or anyone else. Well, they're going to hold by it that they're going to agree it's expanding. They'll find proof for it, but they don't know how it's expanding. But they admit through math and physics it's expanding. Okay. So I would say very simple. What about Genesis? The gods do it? No, we're not going to believe in God. Okay, Steve, Al, come on. Give me an answer. Give me an answer according to science. We don't have one, but we'll find it. No. Do you have one right now? Yes or no? No. You don't have an answer. Good. You don't have an answer. So you have to say there's another possibility. Two other possibilities. Right? One other possibility is evolution. Which a lot of people don't hold of. Right? A lot of science doesn't hold of it. Right? It's either evolution, which you like grasping at straws for that, or you have to tell me that, Genesis, the way the Bible tells it, that's the way it is. That's a possibility. But they'll never admit it. Why? Because then we have to say the creation is the right. We're never going to do that. But you don't have an answer otherwise. Great. Is there any greater cognitive dissonance than that? You could see it if you want to. You're right. It's a lot harder today because we don't have open miracles. It's a lot harder. We're living in a world of Hester B'to Hester Panim, in a world of hiddenness within hiddenness. I agree. Does that mean if I look at the human body, in different things, I can't see godliness in it? You see how a child develops. It's very funny. I had my grandkids here yesterday for, on Shabbos. So I had two that were the same age, pretty much a few days apart, right? So basically both of them are two, a boy and a girl. It's just funny, like how they communicate, like they're playing this game together in their own language. It's very funny. Like very funny to watch. Yeah. So whatever, they take, little steps, more steps, they develop. Yeah, you say, but that's natural the way it goes, even with all the problems. Yeah, it's natural. Okay. But I guess it up that way. Right? Now, somebody points out another thing. Right? Miracles could cause the person to lose merits. Will cost the person's merits. Now, on that, I would say that, yeah, if someone gets saved, and really something bad was supposed to happen, what can happen? They had merit to be saved. What's merit? Mitzvahs, mitzvahs that they had done that protects them. Now, if a person gets saved by a miracle, let's say, it means they probably should have died, but they didn't. Let's say. Yeah. So if that's true, then it could be that merit that they would have received, or let's say better, reward that they would have received in the world to come for the mitzvahs that they've done. They get less of it now. Why? Because it's like playing a video game, you have extra lives. So what happens? So you died, but you still have extra lives left. So okay, you sacrifice this, but you still have life left. So if a person could have been killed, and they don't, they could lose merit. They could lose some reward for that. They lose a lot of reward for that. Or God just lets them die and keeps them intact. Right? The story I've also many times, football player jumps in and save a bunch of people are drowning, didn't really know how to swim so well. Right? I think one of the person got saved, he and other people drowned. But could have had a claim against God, say, listen, I was in the prime of my life. In his late 20s. I'm in the prime of my life. Why didn't you save me? You should have saved me. I wanted to jump in. Right? Now, if I was playing God, put on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, I would look down. I said, really? Did I tell you to jump? And then something, Mr. S, is I got this big smile. He says, yeah, I convinced you to jump. And he dies. He wants to be the hero, whatever. You don't be a hero if you can't swim. You don't jump into a burning building. You don't put your life in danger. The adrenaline's running. No one else is around. Okay. But who says you're allowed to put your life in danger? If it's a doubt, we've said many times, if it's a doubt whether you're putting your life in danger or not, one thing. If it's not a doubt, right? In other words, it's clear you're putting yourself in danger. Who says you're allowed to? Who says you're allowed to? Now, if I were playing God, I would say, why didn't I save you? Because I didn't see anything good was going to come out of you. You didn't have any merit in this world to save yourself. You had no extra lives, right? You had no extra lives. So if you had no extra lives, why should I save you? Why in the world should I save you? It's kind of ironic. But the person jumped in anyway. Again, I'm not even saying for ulterior motives that he wants to be the hero. He sees someone drowning, right? Family member drowning, does whatever he can to save them. Okay. Yeah, but you can say in heaven, why does that look so bad? Because you can't put your life in danger. You do whatever you can, try and save them. But who says your blood is any redder than theirs? Who says you're allowed to do that? If it's a doubt, we said before, good. You have a doubt. It's not clear. It's a danger. Right? I asked this to my Rebbe once, if you go to a certain place, which is considered dangerous, the person gets killed, is that suicide? He said, no. Why is it not called suicide? Not a clear-cut danger. Not a clear-cut danger. If it's something where it's a clear-cut danger, if it's a clear-cut danger, it's one thing. Then it's a different issue. If it's not a clear-cut danger, then if it's not a clear-cut danger, it's a different thing. Then if a person got injured or something happened, okay, not your issue, right? If it's clear as day, if it's clear as day, if it's clear as day, then you're not allowed to put yourself in danger. Then you're for sure not allowed to put yourself in danger. If it's not clear, if it's not clear, it's a different issue. Definitely a different issue. But there will people that will jump in and whatever, trying to save somebody, and it's not good. Because you have to have merit to survive. You will use up, you're right. You probably will use up some reward because you put your life in danger. And that God saves you. It's like using extra lives. That's what it is. It's like using extra lives. Right? If it's a miracle. If it's a miracle. So again, I would say in today's day and age, if people have their emunah intact, their faith and belief in God with everything the crazy that's going on in the world, then that's pretty unbelievable. And the reason is very simple, because we live in a crazy world. We don't see open miracles. It's much harder. Much, much harder. But you can ask the question, time with open miracles, if they lack emunah, what we said. So you gotta say we have no chance. Yeah, it's much harder. I would agree. But if you have your head screwed on straight, which most people don't, then what's going to happen is you look at things you won't understand, right? It won't make sense. But if your head is screwed on straight and you understand at a basic level biology, right? You understand the human body, you understand nature. How do you not see miracle in that? Again, people have their own agendas, different things, very good. Right? We convince ourselves of all kinds of things. You're going to say, so even if I say it's a miracle, so what? Yeah, so then you have to get into that discussion. Well, who's doing it? Well, let's say it's God. How do I know I have to serve him? Okay, that's another discussion. But to say the human body is nature and that's all it is, really? All you have to do, anyone's ever, keep this clean, anyone's ever been constipated, right? It's not a good feeling. 100%, it's not a good feeling. Yeah. Once some of it starts to go out, you have to get it out. It's dangerous, right? It's toxic. You got to get it out, right? Again, we'll keep this, kind of clean, but it's painful. It's extremely painful. Any little thing that goes wrong in the body throws the whole body off, the entire body. So yeah, person gets a cold, they get the flu, that this happens, that happens, very good, right? Give another example. A doctor does surgery. He stitches up the patient and he says, okay, it's out of my hands now. Because he's not given the ability to heal the inside. He can heal a flesh wound, right? According to Monty Python. Flesh wounds, not on the inside. If he stitches the person up, does he have any guarantee how the person's going to react? How the body's going to react? He can say, this should happen, that should happen, the other thing should happen. Say this is the best we've done. This is the best we can do. Now you have to pray. Because, who says the body's going to react the way they think? Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. Right? They don't know. They don't know 100%. They think they do, but something could go wrong. They say, we have an expression here, you can say it anywhere. Surgery was successful, but the patient died. So you can have successful surgery, right? Having a, rabbi I learned under for a number of years. Had surgery, had a stent put in or whatever, but his immune system was very weak and he caught pneumonia. But the surgery was essentially successful. He was on dialysis and, they needed to open him up more to get better blood, flowing or whatever. But what happened? His body was so weak. His body was so weak that he caught pneumonia and that's what killed him. God wanted to take him anyway now. Okay. But that's what killed him. So yeah, surgery, very successful. Yeah, but God took him a different way. Okay. But you see how the body heals. And the trauma the body can go through. Take a woman who gives birth. That, it's like, by the time the baby comes out, it's like they've been through war. That body's been through war. If the kid wouldn't come out so cute, they wouldn't have kids anymore. Right? It's all the pain and everything else. And I was like, Chava, it's Eve's fault. Blame her. It's all her fault. Yeah. Why does a woman have to bring a sin offering afterwards? Because she makes a vow she'll never be with her husband again because of all the pain he caused. Right? But what did God give women? Forgetfulness. My wife will say, I remember every birth clear. But they get forgetfulness, otherwise they wouldn't have kids. They wouldn't have kids otherwise. But you see like that, I remember, we'll keep this clean a few times. Or once, the nurse comes over and is like, you want to see the placenta? It's like, do I have to? But you see, like the slab of meat, like that's what was nourishing the baby. You look at it like this, again, keep this clean. You see the slab of meat, you're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And that's what fed the baby, kept the baby alive. That was a connection between the mother and the child to this placenta. Yeah. Right? Well, I think it was the first and last one I saw. But, even so, but it takes time for that body to recover. Body's been through trauma, no question. Absolutely no question. But the whole process is miraculous when everything goes the way it should. It's unbelievably miraculous. When you see it enough times, you don't see it as being miraculous. See, it's nature. So you can see it in different ways. You see what's the bottom line? As this person I interviewed said, why did my siblings see the same thing? Good. Very good question. Why don't they see it as miracle? Because they're convinced it's nature. They don't want to be convinced it's miracle. Because what is miracle? If a person says it did a miracle, what does that mean? You're obligated. You're much more obligated. Everyone said a number of times, even during this war, that a person says it's miracle, it obligates you to do more. You have to change. You have to change something. If you do miracles. If you admit it's a miracle. See, people can say, "Oh, it's a miracle, it's a miracle." Big deal. They can say whatever they want, right? But if a religious person says it, that has to change them. That for sure has to change them. So you can look at nature. I heard a rabbi once say, "What's the difference between nature and miracle? Frequency." So a lot of things we see that you can't explain according to nature. What's the greatest example besides the human body in nature? Jewish people. Jewish people do not go according to nature. When Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple, that was it. Jewish people go into exile, go to Babylonia, they should have been finished. Should have been absolutely destroyed. Came back. And he had all these other programs and different things. Jewish people do not make sense. They should have stayed alive. So, for everything they've gone through throughout their history, shouldn't be here. Should not be here. It doesn't make sense logically. But if you would have the eyes to really understand, again, forget Kabbalah, forget anything else. If you had the eyes to understand, you would see. Put them anywhere else in the world or any other nation, they disappear. They for sure would disappear. In fact, the Jewish people are still here, 1/1000th or less of the world's population. The miraculous was still here. According to nature, we shouldn't be here. With all the tragedies that have happened. As I heard someone say, Nebuchadnezzar came in, flattened them like a pancake, absolutely like a pancake, took them out, should have been finished. Going into Babylonia, should have been finished. A lot of times that should have been the case. But you see, even when the Jews are down, they still flourish. They still flourish. So, again, you got to be a vessel over here to be able to see. And there'll be plenty of people, they'll make fun, they'll say things of this or that, which doesn't make any sense. I'm like, come on, you really hold by that? Like someone was intermarried. I said, the Torah says so many times, don't intermarry. So I said, even if you want to say it's man-made, do you think they were kidding? Do you think they only made for that generation? Or generation going into the land and this and that? They're like, you're a fanatic. I said, I know. I've been called worse, right? I said, you're a fanatic. I said, beautiful. I'm a fanatic. I said, but what's the answer? You can't say I'm a fanatic. It's not an answer. Give me a legitimate reason. We hate non-Jews. We hate pig. We hate other things. So give me an answer. Give me some answer. Give me a medrash somewhere. Give me a Talmudic sage said something. I don't know. I'm not a world expert. You catch me on plenty of things. Okay. Not a problem. But tell me where. Tell me where. Something. They're like, I don't have to answer to you. That's the answer. They won't. Because they know I got them. They know they don't have an answer. They'll just say, I do what I want. Okay. That's not an answer. Or someone told me, it's in my heart. Yeah, so what? I got a lot of things in my heart. That's not an answer either. So that was very nice. It's like, maybe you have a source, something. That's what my heart tells me. Okay. Do you enjoy arguing with the brick? I don't. I can tell you personal experience, no fun. Right? You get yelled at, they say things, okay. But they don't want an answer. They don't want an answer. So they say there are no miracles today. You're right. But you know what? If you want to see, what does the Gemara say? You want to go in the right direction, God will help you. You want to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop you. He won't stop you. So what's the answer? Person will see what they want to see. One person will say it's a miracle. One person will say it's our luck. We got the Patriot missiles, we got the Israeli army, we got this, we got that. We're in control. Okay. But you see, it's not true. We make up all kinds of things to fit their agenda. If they wanted to see, they could see. If they want their eyes open, they could, they could see. Famous Three Stooges. I said, I can't see. I said, why not? I said, I have my eyes closed. You want to have your eyes closed? Okay. You can have your eyes closed. You can decide what you want to see and not. See, but people won't admit that. They'll think I have the truth. I know better than you. Okay. I told someone want to make fun of me. Was convinced you can only make mayonnaise with milk. I was like, this mayonnaise is parv. That there's no milk in it. It's not true. I said, I know a number of kosher brands. It says parv, does not say it has milk in it. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I keep kosher. I know there's mayonnaise that exists that is parv. There's no milk in it. Oh, you want to be stupid? Okay. So I said, I'll bring you 3 different brands that says parv on it. You gonna believe that? So I'll show you pictures. Right? I'll show you pictures. Why is someone going to make fun of you for that and all that? Because they want to do what they want to do. They would say, oh, Torah's not true, it can't be, it's this and that, whatever. Yeah, I was in a restaurant with somebody, and someone says, keeping kosher. Why do you have to keep kosher? No problem with trichinosis. Like back in the day, they didn't heat up things, people got tapeworms, different things. I was like, by the way, you're eating a bagel. Bagel has nothing to do with trichinosis, does it? They're like, whatever. Just pass the salt. People say stuff to say stuff. One of the greatest lines I've never been able to answer, isn't circumcision barbaric? Say, no, barbarians don't do it. I've never been able to use that. Great line. Yeah. Well, people say things to say things because they want to make fun. They don't want to have to do anything. Right? We have challenges. We have a lot of challenges. If you want to see the truth, you see it. If you don't want to see the truth, you won't see it. And you get a lot of people that don't want to see the truth. They'll take fantasy. I'll give you an example. It's a good example. You got people that will allow, they're probably stopping this now, they will allow women that are really men, biologically men, right, to play in women's sport. So they're breaking all the records. Yeah. So they made a big war against it. Very good. The person's a male. They have nothing to talk about. They're a male. Yeah. And convincing the way they dress, this, that. Isn't that insane? No, I really think I'm a woman. You think what you want. You're a male. Biologically, you're a male. It's insane. You got to change the dynamics of what it is? No. But you're going to convince people, no, that you can do this. Does that make any sense? Logically. Makes no sense. If you're a big sports fan, throw that out. You totally throw it out. Well, of course, if you got someone who's dressed like a woman, but it's a male, of course it's going to be better in powerlifting and better in other sports. Of course, because it's stronger. Just the way it is. That's just the way it is. That's insanity. That's changing the way people think. Changing their mindset. Now, can a person be convinced of that? Yes. Is it logical? It's not logical. Not at all. Person born bred sports fan. Yeah. Grew up on, let's say, the major sports, certainly in America. You got basketball, football, hockey, the main sport. I'm not going to use soccer, right? Forget about soccer, right? Those are the main 3. Baseball, football, hockey. Yeah, those are the main 3. Yeah. They're separate for a reason. Men are playing with women are playing with men. That's the way it is. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, don't question this. Never. But now they got a whole agenda. But if you're a true sports fan, it'll make you sick. Should make you sick. Because, okay, you want to tell me in baseball, the steroids era, everyone's taking steroids at unfair advantage. Okay. But that's not the same thing. That's putting anabolic steroids in your system. You can just jacked up and who knows what, right? So you can do things better, faster, stronger. Great. That's not talking about this. That's unfair advantage. in that sense, right? That's why the whole discussion, some of these people, should they be in the Hall of Fame or not? Okay, we're not going to go there, right? But you have a whole discussion about that. But in general, a true sports fan would be absolutely disgusted by this. They would never even entertain the possibility. I'm not going to do it racist or anything else. A guy's a guy, a woman's a woman. That's it. They're separate. Finished. Like, what's the argument? Oh, no, you don't understand. Yeah, she's really a woman. No, she's not. Biologically, she's a man. That's it. But a true sports fan would be utterly disgusted. Utterly disgusted. You hear every once in a while, a woman playing college football sometimes is that, right? It's very rare. Very, very rare. There's good reason. Unless she's like jacked up also, she gets squashed. She'll get squashed. Makes sense. Even, person had a child. He's got this girl. She's like all jacked up. You want to play football with men? I don't think so. With all the money I don't have, I put it all down and say absolutely not. She's gonna get squashed, as she should, playing with men. Not saying they can't be good athletes, but they're not playing with men. Anyway, I digress here. The point is, yeah, we can have a lot of trials. I mean, for sure, we can have a lot of trials, but God gave us a brain, right? God gave us a brain to know what's right and wrong. And if you want the truth, you find it. If you don't want the truth, you'll be brainwashed. I have to go convince all these people worshiping cows? I don't think so. Not my job. We spoke about that. Yeah, but they're going to die and they're in trouble. I said, you're right. You're 100% right. But, I don't have to convince someone of that. Like, people get brainwashed by this. You're right. They get sucked into this whole agenda. Okay. Who said you have to get, sucked into it? God gave you a brain to make decisions, to make good decisions or bad decisions. But I think sports is a good example. A true hardcore sports fan, they'll think this is the stupidest thing they ever heard. Steroids, they'll have a discussion about. They should be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Unfair advantage. Okay. That they could have a discussion on. That's not even a topic. It's not even a topic. What an issue. Men and women are different. Remember Billie Jean King played Bobby Riggs? Remember that back in the day? Now I'm aging myself a lot. They're different. Billie Jean King ain't playing with, whoever top, tennis star with that. She ain't playing against Jimmy Connors, right? Back in the day. Or McEnroe or whoever. She ain't playing against them. No offense. Maybe Martina Navratilova could have. Maybe. I don't think so, though. Right? Even as big as she was. Doesn't matter. They're not playing against them. They're stronger. They're bigger. They're this. It's a moot point. The society's messed up. Society's messed up. We have those, people have those challenges. Because society's totally messed up. Yeah. Any other questions? Hope that answered the question. Yeah, any other questions? Oops, 1 second. All right, I'm going to stop here. We'll continue this next week. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at my Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, as our Father's Book of Leviticus. Want to send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which have a good beginning of the day, middle of the day.